Hi, everybody. So I have two more stories for the fruit series. So last video, I talked about how my study of the fruits and of the word fruitful in scripture got me to the parable of the soils, and where I even drew a heart of thorns, and you saw the picture of the heart of flowers, where I really started to pray around it and ask for a new heart and for God to clear the thorns out of my heart. But I couldn't study the parable of soils and fruitful without stumbling upon the next parable that started to hit me. So in my notes, I ended that last video with these notes, my crowded heart, this is why they have never become fruitful and mature. That's Luke 8:14, those thorns, the things of this world. This is why they have never become fruitful and mature. And I then ended my notes on because I am not trusting him, because I'm not trusting my gifts that he has given me, because I am not trusting him all the way. I'm not trusting my talents. Then I was stumbling upon the parable of the talents, which is also called the parable of financial stewardship, I believe. The parable of the prince and his servants is what it's called in Luke. So this is where, the king gives 3 people money, and 2 of them bury it or go and work and make more of it, and 1 person buries it and things like that. But what drew me to the parable of talents, and the notes that I took was according to his abilities. So in some of the translations, it literally says that the servants were given the amount of money based on their abilities, in which case, too much is given, much is expected, right? And then I wrote in my notes, well done, faithful, I will give you more. Because you were faithful, I will give you more. And I actually want to read that to you. This is the Passion Translation. This is this parable is in Luke and in Matthew. Matthew 25 and then Luke 19. But this is Luke 19. It's at the end of the parable, verse 26. Yes, replied the king, but to all who have been faithful, even more will be given them. And for the ones who have nothing, even the little they seem to have will be taken from them. Now bring all those rebellious enemies of mine who rejected me as their king, and bring them here before me and execute them. But what I want to point out is all who have been faithful, even more will be given. If I trust my gifts that come from him, if we trust him, we'll be given more. That fruitfulness will He'll make us more fruitful because we actually trust him to make our gifts work for the kingdom and for us. So it was this aha of oh my gosh, my heart is full of these thorns. I keep concentrated on the things of this world, the striving. Why can't I just put this down? But it led me, as I was searching and researching, it led me to this parable of talents. Good and faithful servant, you took your gifts that I gave you and you made them work for you, for me, for the world. And I'm going to reward that. And when I am stuck in the thorns, when I am focused on the wrong stuff, when I'm believing the lies, I am not a good and faithful servant. I am not using his gifts the way he wants them to be used, the reason he gifted them to me. And the most beautiful part is he's going to sit there and be freaking patient. And he's going to wait for me to do it. So my friend Ben, who's a pastor at my church, I asked him for some readings on the parable of soils and the parable of talents. And he came out with this huge stack of books. I was like, Ben, I am not a theologian. And he gives me this huge, huge book of parables. And I was literally reading it yesterday to chat out loud. And he goes, I don't know if that's the resource that you need. And I was like, I don't even understand most of it. But I love how in scripture, Jesus tells the parables and then he literally explains the parables to the disciples. We are his disciples. We are so human and we need all of these different resources. I need the notes in all of my Bibles. I need Google to help me, to lead me from fruits to the parable of soils to the parable of talents, to help me realize get out of the way, Justine. Let him do the work. When I use my gifts, especially my gift of curiosity, to get curious about the fruits, to get curious about reclaiming this word for myself, about what it means to use my gifts that he gave me, to trust him with it, to trust his timing. Like, he will use it. He'll use it if I let him. And so that brings us to our last video, which brings us to the release of the complicated gray. So I'll see you for the next one.